Hold on, what were we just talking about? Like, oh, the past performance, right? Like police
Yeah,
reflecting police.
yeah. Here's my thing, right? It's like, you know, people will say. I mean, my thing is, if you look at the way, well, I mean, I don't know. Okay, so we were talking about how Chauvin, you can say he, like, before that, it was kind of predictable that this was going to happen. And the fact that you can't use a cop's record against them is ridiculous because that's the most reliable indicator. You don't walk into a job and then your resume is under lock and key, like some reason an employer can't get access to your resume legally. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not something that happens. So
Hold
then
on,
when
is that the case? Is that how the system works? Where like your past record and like performances of and like mishaps and
I
mistakes.
forgot the name of the law, so I shouldn't. So I don't want to. I don't want to be like being a loudmouth here. But as I understand it, a cop's record may not be used when they're reviewing like excessive force or something like
In the
that.
court of law, get the fuck out of here. And that's like a case that happened, like a precedent.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think I forgot the law. Yo, let me look it up because I don't. Like I said, I don't want to be talking shit here. But
Yeah.
fuck this, man. I don't want to be on the record saying some shit that's not true, and I can't find it right now.
Yeah. I'll edit it, bro. I'll edit it.
Yeah. Okay. So we were saying that the only reliable predictor of somebody's future behavior is their past behavior. And so if you want to take that off the table, then you just have to indicate how else am I supposed to be able to tell? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I mean, even if it's not about being prosecuted for, excessive force, how about just we've been telling you this all along. We've been telling you the police are mistreating us. The police, we don't have the same relationship that white people have with the police. People don't, it's almost like people are saying, oh, well, you're just, feeling sorry for yourself or you were up to no good. That's not how it works. And so now, you have, it's really, this is, the other thing I think is important is that this is a culmination of a lot of perfect factors. Like, first of all, since 2014, this has become a major issue. Before that, it wasn't really being caught on video, as I understand it. I think Fruitvale Station, like the events that inspired Fruitvale Station with Oscar Grant might have happened prior.
Did you see that movie?
Yeah, and but the internet wasn't where it was when in 2014 it was 2014. I believe that was Mike Brown. Trayvon might have been the same year. But it's all around that time. Ever since then, Washington Post has like started a database and like a whole bunch of other, I guess,
Dude,
organizations have
worse?
started databases about like police brutality. So it's just become like a widely studied thing. And I think now it's getting to the point where there have been so many videos, in addition to the decades and decades and decades of black people's testimony, in addition to the fact that you have three different angles of the same situation. You have George Floyd being murdered by the police because the police were called on him over a fake 20. You have Amy Cooper in Central Park who is calling the police on a person who's just trying to get her to follow the law and leash her dog. And you see the way she modulates her voice and all that stuff. And like, I'm being attacked by an African-American man. And, I was watching a podcast with Charlemagne, and he like said it perfectly. He said she knew exactly what to say to the police in order to weaponize Christian Cooper's blackness against him. She knew how to make her voice sound. She knew exactly what to say. I'm going to tell the police an African-American man is assaulting me. That's what she said. And she had no idea it was going to go viral. And so this was just her acting in her natural element. And you saw Ahmaud Arbery, which is what happens when vigilantes try to take things into their own hands and use their, preconceived notions about how black people act, that's not even really what it is. I think they were out there just being racist because it's come out since that after they shot him, one of them said fucking nigger. So, they might not even thought he was robbing people in the area. They might have just been like, we're going to shoot this guy who's jogging down the street. There's no telling. And so now you're seeing all these different angles. And then if you compare it to the testimony of, the spokespeople for the police, infrastructure, and you look at the people in the black community, like the civil rights activists and, the rappers have been saying this for years. If you compare the testimonies and then you look at the video that's coming out, not just before the protest, but after the protest, and you see the way the violence is being inflicted. Compare the notes. Whose testimony lines up more with reality? And the thing is, black people aren't trying to make ourselves look like some type of angels or saints. We just want to be treated fairly. In police narratives, they're always the hero. You have to question when there's no fallibility. You know what I'm saying? It took 9 minutes of standing on someone's neck for people to be like, okay, for the police to finally condemn this kind of thing, and that's where the impatience comes from in the community. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like it's hard for me, right? Because the way I was kind of thinking about it is like, okay, let me think about this in a situation where, like, what if I was in George Floyd's position, right? What if I was just in the wrong area at the wrong time at the gas station or something, and some cops pulled up on me because somebody said something, and I was just dressed like casually hanging out. And if they were to come at me and start to attack me and say things about me, like, I would definitely fight back, but I would fight back like very much using the law and the education to my advantage and being like, yo, you can't do this. I know my rights. And then start like listing out like a bunch of rights. And that's somebody who comes from university with like a ton of like knowledge and education and intelligence, right? But then there's also, but then I was like, yeah, but what if that cop was just like, yeah, but fuck it, dude, I'm just gonna do it anyway because I can.
You can see George asking him, like, the dude who was in the car with George Floyd when he got pulled over by the cops said that he was trying to defuse the situation because he was scared because he had no idea what was going on. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that we got to live with, man. That's our reality.
Yeah, it's just like, so even if you are a very intelligent black man or somebody who is trying to be kind and trying to do the right thing, like, you're just automatically going to get judged because of the way you look, right? You're just going to get put under pressure the whole time, even if you know what's right and what's wrong, and even if you are educated on the full system, somebody can then just, they know that they almost can like bend the media to their advantage, you know what I'm saying? And it's not like they're like consciously thinking about it. It's like a subconscious thing where it's like, I know that I'm in the right. They think they're in the right because the world has kind of told them since birth that they've always kind of been in the right. You know? So it's just it's really daunting and really fearful to see that it like theoretically could happen to anyone who's just like driving around hanging out. Yeah.
You saw it on live television, CNN. This dude went to Northwestern Journalism School and he was arrested while he was broadcasting.
Yeah.
Omar Jimenez.
Yeah, what the
arrested
fuck?
while he was broadcasting. That's wild. You know?
I think we've seen a history of, and like this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? Like we saw it with like the Spanish and the Incans. We saw it with like the New Americans and the Native Americans. You know, and now you're seeing it with like white people and then black people. And I guess the question that I really have is like racism. Like the way I explain it to people is, as long as there's only humans on this planet, like until the day that aliens come down and start invading Earth, there's always going to be some type of discrimination against one person or another, right? Whether it be like the Jews in Nazi Germany, whether it be black people and white people, or like even Trump and his like Mexican wall, right? There's always going to be some, rich people and poor people. There's always going to be some discrimination until like aliens come down and we have a common enemy and we all look at each other like, oh shit, like bro, we got to put our differences aside because we're human now and we got to go kill these fucking aliens. So
I mean, you know, you could argue coronavirus is that force and it's not happening, but go on.
I mean, it was though. Like for a minute, everybody was chilling.
You're right about that.
Until motherfuckers stopped eating, and that was the problem. Where it's like, all right, so now coronavirus was that force, but coronavirus was only that force until humans started to die, and the humans that were dying were the low socioeconomic people. And the low socioeconomic people tend to be off white people, you know?
Yep.
So coronavirus was a common enemy until it wasn't a common enemy. Until it was, it'd be like the aliens coming down and only fucking killing like the black people. You know what I'm saying? Or like the Mexican people being like, I'm only gonna kill these guys.
What's happening.
Eventually, the white people would be like, oh, we're good. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah. We'll stay in the crib. You know?
Yeah, and that's what's annoying too, because it's like you have all these prominent people saying like, oh, we should be reopening, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, we should be reopening, but you're making a political argument. You're not making an argument that's based on wanting to come to an agreement. Now, some people are. I'm not going to paint a broad brush, but like the stuff you see on TV and all that stuff where like they're saying we should be reopening, there's no reason not to. It's like, okay, wait a minute. The doctors told us how to reopen, and nobody's taking any steps to do that. So if you want to reopen, take those steps. Get the infrastructure in place for contact tracing. Get more tests done, which we're getting there. But it's like people just want to argue like, oh, well, if you don't want to open up the economy, then you're a liberal. Or, oh, if you want to stay indoors for the next 6 months, then you're a conservative. That it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like a very gray situation. And, you know, a lot of the jobs, like, I mean, you know, a lot of the jobs like that are being performed, like the essential ones, are being performed by black folks. And so if you keep increasing the amount of people that are coming and going anywhere, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a virologist, so of course, let me shut up here. I'm just saying I'm going to guess that that's not conducive to getting rid of the virus or to controlling the virus. And then you got to think about the medical infrastructure. Now, we avoided ruin, but, you know, if this spikes again when the weather is not bad, first of all, we have hurricane season coming. There's no telling what's going to happen in the Southeast. And then after that, you have flu season. So there are challenges that we're going to have to face. And even if we were united, they'd be tough. But the fact that this stuff is happening the way it's happening is so frustrating.
Yeah. So,
and I mean, you know, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So like, what do we do though, right? Because like shit is getting worse, and we're not banding together, and we're like in like a horrible situation. And on top of that, man, like and I know you probably experienced too. Like you're just watching the market go up. It's just going through the roof, and you're just like, okay, so now like there's a visible difference between the economy and what's actually going on, and then what the market is saying is going on, right? So that like it's like, okay, there's definitely like something happening between like the very wealthy population and then the very poor population. The poor people are rioting in the streets, but the wealthy people keep pushing asset prices higher, right? So now it's like you can see in like very clear and plain terms the separation of like wealth and like the divide that's occurring in America, right? And as that divide grows and gets bigger, then something like, you're right, like the hurricane season or like a second wave of the coronavirus can just take us out, can just put us down.
And when people lose jobs, they lose healthcare. So I mean, you know, a lot of times, like, you know, I mean, there's like a lot of, you know, and then, you know, I mean, I don't know why I feel like I want to say this, but I do want to say this, like, you know, in terms of the, I think that's the other part of it. You know, I mean, I mean, it's not that I don't want to say it. I don't know. Let me go where I'm going. So, you know, you brought up like the fact that we're in economic ruin right now, and then you look outside, and then you see what's, you know, blatant brutality by authority. You know what I'm saying? And you know, people are not really feeling authority right now. They've been locked down for 3 months. Millions of people are unemployed. You know, the unemployment system is not working as efficiently as it should. Some people are making their full-time job trying to get through to that place. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things that are going on. And then so, like, people are looking at the protests. And this is not, you know, I think most people support the protests. I hear a lot of people saying, like, oh, looting and rioting are bad. And I totally agree with that. I do agree with that. But you know, I don't think, I mean, well, I think, okay, there's two different things, right? I think rioting and looting should be there should be a distinction between them. And I think looting can be explained by people being broke and people are already in the streets voicing their displeasure. I think this is really just these are all symptoms of dysfunction. Like, there's like a lot of dysfunction that people are sick of. And, you know, as far as the rioting is concerned, I don't condone tearing shit up, but at the same time, I would just ask people who also don't condone tearing shit up to think. When shit wasn't being torn up, how much attention were you inclined to pay? Do you understand? I mean, now I was paying attention, but I'm saying when you're a rich person who isn't on social media and doesn't really care that people are marching in cities because cities are liberal and those are all young kids and they don't understand the value of a dollar and they're all Bernie supporters, socialists, blah, blah, blah. Like, think about it. if Colin Kaepernick, you drag his name through the mud, you support his blackballing from the NFL, and you support him being called a son of a bitch if that's what you're into. I just ask you, like, what was going to get your attention? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that actually makes a ton of sense to me now, bro. Now that I'm thinking about it, is like, so I'm gonna address the looters and the rioters there because you just brought it up. The rioters, the rioters I thought came from anger, right? Like the way I looked at that is like, all right, so we just don't give a fuck about anybody anymore. All right, so now I'm in pain, right? Because of an action that you guys caused me, right? To somebody
and you're not fucking listening.
Yeah, somebody who's similar and looks like me, right? And I'm feeling this man's pain because I empathize with him because that could have been me.
It could. Yep.
I could have been in that dude's shoes. Now, you don't empathize with this dude because you're so far removed from him. Your skin tone isn't the same, right? Like, you eating good, right? You probably have a super educated degree. Your car probably doesn't look like him. Your car's probably like twice as nice as his, right? And you're not even close to the area that he's in. You've never been pulled over by the police. You've never been taken out of a car, handcuffed, right? Those are all things that would be outlandish. They would be outlandish if it happened to you. So it's impossible for you to take the perspective of knowing what that person is feeling like, right? And then so when you see something like that happens, you just turn your blind eye and you're just like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's just how those people are, and that's just the situation they were born into, and that fucking sucks, and I'm glad it's not me, right? But now what's happening is people are like, yo, this affects more than just our community. It affects more than just us. And if you don't think that it affects more than our community and just us, now we're going to make it affect you too, right? So you can be a part of the movement, right?
Exactly.
So now we're going to burn your shit until you help us with our problems, right?
Because
now it's
all black people right now, we love the Floyd family as if they were our own. Because do you know what unites us? There aren't that many. I don't know how many black people there are in Minnesota, but it's not the most. Like, it's not like, Atlanta or Baltimore, one of these other cities with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what unites us is the treatment that we receive from the same institutions. That's what unites us. The way we got here in the first place and the way we've been treated since. That is what unites us, and it's essentially made. That's, you know what I'm saying? And so, like, we love them because we understand that, we're united by the treatment that we've been subjected to. You know what I'm saying? It's like deeper than you can even really put words to. You know what I mean?
We know how they're feeling. Like, we know how that's literally what it is. We feel connected to them because we know how they're feeling. And the reason that there's two sides is because one side is like, hey, man, you guys aren't understanding how we're feeling. And then the other side is like, yes, but you're not understanding how we're feeling. And what needs to happen is both sides need to be like, okay, let's sit at a table. Express to me your feelings, and I will express to you my feelings. It's actually funny, man. So Elon Musk has like that new. He went on like the stage and was talking about this like new technology that they're building where they can implant a chip into your head. And he's saying that like in 10 to 15 years, we won't need to communicate anymore because that chip will just be able to like transmit feelings, right? Literally transmit feelings. From being like, instead of like taking words and packaging up being like, I'm angry, I will send you the exact angry feeling that I'm feeling. I will send you the exact, like if your mother dies, right? My mom hasn't died, but somebody will be able to send me the exact feeling that they're having from their mother dying versus like the feeling that the sad feeling they're having from getting a paper cut. You know what I'm saying?
That's
They'll be able to. Yeah, so they're not necessarily the same. They're a different type of feeling they're having, and we'll be able to send each other that feeling. And when that happens, shit gets fucking really crazy because now you're going to have people who are completely on different sides of the spectrum understanding how they're feeling and just being like, oh my God, this is the worst feeling I've ever experienced, or oh my God, this is the best experience that I've ever experienced, And then from that point, we start to connect more as humans. But the problem that we're facing right now is that people aren't connecting that way because you have to use it through language, and we don't speak the same language. Like, literally, we're not speaking the same language because we haven't seen it, we haven't felt it. The language is
so
actually
true.
different,
right?
That
is so true, dog.
Like, the slang is different. Keep on. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, that is so true. Think about the concept of hip-hop. Hip-hop is the biggest thing smoking right now. You hear the biggest artists on the planet talking about this stuff all the time, J. Cole talks about it. Kendrick Lamar talks about it. And it's not just them. It's the rappers who are in the trap and stuff like that. They will tell you. You know, Lil Herb has a story that he talks about in this song called East Side. He talks about how, you know, I guess like, you know, his enemies or whatever. He this is alleged. You know, I don't want to act like I know anything about this stuff, but he was saying like, you know, the cops took our guns, and then the next block we walked onto, our enemies were there, and we had no guns because the cops just took them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you hear the rappers talking about this type of stuff, and it just goes like people listen to it and it sounds great, but
they're not
they
listening
don't
to the
understand. Like, I'm telling the truth. It's not like I'm lying to you here. Like, you know?
Yeah, I think that's like
crazy.
one
And
of the most
we're
important
literally
things.
speaking two different languages.
I think that's another thing too, right? Is like you got to think about music in the context of who the audience is, right? And this is something like I don't like Russ that much. Like if you know Russ,
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah,
but he posted like an hour-long clip like years ago, just out of the blue, and he's talking about black culture, and he's like I'm a visitor to black culture, right? He's like
Yep.
I'm an Italian artist who raps, but I'm a visitor to black culture. And he's like, and
Yep.
what you see happening is you are having like the outliers of the black community who don't necessarily represent what it stands for, like Lil Pump, Lil fucking Skies, Tekashi 6ix9ine, those dudes, right?
Yep.
And then you have a bunch of like 13-year-old white kids who make these meme accounts, and then the artist, the
Yep.
label artist, goes and pays these meme accounts of like 300 to 400,000 people to start promoting these like new rappers because they look ridiculous, they look crazy, and they get views, they get attention, and they get money. But the problem is that now become, and J. Cole had the conversation with Lil Pump. Like he sat him down, he's like, yo, you got to think about your impact and think about what you're doing. Now, the world, like a bunch of 13-year-old like white kids, think that you represent the black population, right?
Yep.
And when they think that you represent the black population, and then they become police officers later in life, and then they see a dude on the street, right? They're just automatically,
It's on brand to them.
yeah. They think that guy fits the mold that they grew up watching
Yep.
when they were 13, because that's all that was pumped to them because of profit centers, right? Because
Yep.
labels were like, I'm just gonna pump out this dude with a bunch of tattoos on his face. This is what it's like to be black. All they do is talk about fucking like 80 different hoes and like drug
Yep.
culture, right? And I think
Yep.
that's why, like, for me, like Joyner Lucas has been so like astronomically important in the modern day era, because like he's talking about the experience of just like making people more socially conscious. You know, like if you've
Yeah.
seen like I'm Not Racist, like the first time I watched like I'm Not Racist, and like the video, like there's a white dude who was talking about like Trump and like all the white perspective. I was like, this makes me sick, dude. Like I can't believe a white dude would come up with this and make this, right? And then the black dude came on and he shared his experience, and I was like, oh shit, like this is supposed to make me feel this way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
supposed to be polarizing, because if I'm feeling this way, I'm betting you a lot of other white people who had a ton of preconceived notions about what it means to be black and the black experience is being fucking challenged right now, because now they're getting the other side, they're getting the other perspective, and they're being like, oh shit, these are all like the subconscious, deep racist thoughts that I had, but I had them not because I'm racist or because like I actually think this way. I had them because that was the only experience that I've known, because I've never been in that culture. The only experience that I have with this culture is seeing it on TV, right? And when you see it on TV, what is getting pumped on TV? The shit that's gonna get the media center, CNN or whatever movie, the most money. It's whatever's gonna bring in the most money. And when you do that, you have to dramatize it. It doesn't come close to the actual authentic experience, right?
Right. I understand that part of it is living in different worlds. And so I'm glad that social media has become the equalizer, where it's not, I mean, now it's like if you live in a different world, it's because you choose to. It's because you do not want to see the reality. And that's not the majority of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think majority of white people are actively like, you know, oh yeah, I'm just gonna ignore these black people because they might have a point, but I don't give a shit. I don't think that's how it works. It's like they're like, okay, well, your reality is incongruent with my reality, and I don't have any way to verify what you're saying. I mean, I think this is bullshit, but I mean that, you know, it's Yeah, I don't know. That was emotional. I shouldn't have said that. Basically what I'm trying to say is I understand where, you would say, okay, my experience with the cops is they only show up when I call them. And when they do, they take care of whatever problem that I would call them about. So if I'm scared, that's who I'm calling. You know what I'm saying? If I get in a car accident, that's who I'm calling. If I see a car accident, that's who I'm calling. If I see something wrong, that's who I'm calling. You know what I'm saying? And, that's true. It is. But it also is true that if you are not white, your experiences are vastly different. And I can't speak for other minority groups, but, just in terms of the black community, people, there is a legitimate fear because this has happened. I forgot the names of the people it's happened to, but it's happened. There is a legitimate fear that if you call the police, they will come and they will go off on you. People have been killed for this. You know what I'm saying? People have been killed because the cops mistook them for somebody. Like, this stuff is crazy. And, when you have to think about that, it's going to make you think twice about, picking up the phone or whatever. So we have a different relationship. And it's not to say that, all cops are evil, but if you even, because I mean, it doesn't even take somebody going onto the beat with the, I'm going to just go out here and beat up as many black people as I can. If you're one of those people who watches movies and listens to hip hop, and when you see black people, you're clutching your bag or you're rolling your windows up, you become a police officer and you're afraid of this man that you have never met before just because he's black. That is what also causes problems, because that person is going to be much quicker to reach for their gun. Yeah. Much quicker.
Yeah. So I got a question for you here though, and this is a conversation that like I was having with my dad and my mom. Mm-hmm. And it's one that's going to be very challenging and trying. So I want to prep you for it. But just think about it like this, right? Let's assume that for whatever reason you're walking into a dark alley, okay? And then you got like $1,000 in your pocket, right? Mm-hmm. And you see a figure approaching you, okay? What happened if that like what, like there's a difference between like, okay, if it's a white girl approaching me, right, versus like if there's a black girl approaching me. And then it's like, okay, if there's a white man approaching me versus like a black man approaching me, right? And how would you feel in every single one of those situations? Like in the way I played it is like, okay, in the first situation, like if I see a female in that alley with me, right? I'm like, okay, this is a female. The odds that I get my ass beat by a female, or like that a female is gonna do something like that to me is like low. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's like these like occurrences that are happening in my mind. Now, if I see a white dude, I'm checking to see like, does he have tattoos? Like, how scary does he look?
Exactly.
Does he have like a black hoodie on? Like, I'm making like a bunch of checks.
How do these people look? Do they look like they're about to rob you?
Yeah.
Like, if they're about to rob you, then it doesn't really matter what color he is. He's about to rob you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And then if I see a black dude coming down the alley, like, and this is coming from like somebody who's black, like in my mind, I think my dad and my mom agreed. Like, we're just like, yeah, man, like there's a good chance that this dude might try to fucking harm me. You know what I'm saying? And like, it was weird. It was weird to actually admit that because it felt wrong. And then I had to challenge, like, okay, why am I having these thoughts? And for me, man, like my freshman year going into sophomore year at Lala, and keep in mind, I grew up in like Orange County, right? So like, I'm pretty much the token black dude out here, and I'm like, and I'm half, you know what I'm saying? So like all my friends out here, actually, ironically, like I was like looking at it, I'm trying to do like a video, and I was having a hard time like finding like a white homie, because all my friends are like half white for the most part. We're like half white, half Mexican, half white, half black, half white, half like Persian. You know what I'm saying? Like all my friends are like half of something else, which is kind of which is super interesting, right? Like you stick to people you know, and you stick to your own packs, your own tribes, like regardless of whether you realize you're doing it. So where's I going with this? So when I went to Chicago, like freshman to sophomore year, I go to Lala, and I'm with my Indian homie, I'm with my my Middle Eastern homie, and then I'm with like just one of my white friends, right? And we come home, and we get off the Red Line train, at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. because it's like Lala and we're hungry, right? And we're on like we're at the Garfield station, right? The Red Line Garfield station, and we go to Checkers to get some grub, right? And we get some food, and then we're just hanging out. It's the middle of summer, hanging out at the Garfield station, right? And some dude pulled up on us and just like robbed us, right? And I don't want to get into the full story now, but like he had a gun on us and was like held us up. And when he pulled the gun out, it was such a surreal experience for us four, because we had never seen anything like that in real life. We just thought it was on TV. We're like, oh shit, this is real. To the point where he was like, nobody moved, and we started like looking at each other like we almost started laughing because we thought it was a joke. We're like, this isn't real. You know what I'm saying? And then no, it was actually real. He like robbed us and shit and took all our shit. And then we're like, but the thing is like 2-3 months later, and like all through college, right? Like in the South Side, like I lived up by like 52nd, so like kind of far away from like the private police force. Whenever I saw somebody walking in my area, immediately there was always like a second where I was like, I need to be on alert. You know what I'm saying? If this guy makes a move, I'm taking off. And it's actually funny. There was this dude who came up to me one time and he had a hoodie on, and he was like I was checking out this car, and I was taking this picture of this car that got absolutely like totaled, and it was like in a parking spot, and it was kind of fucked up. So I was taking a picture of this car, and this dude came up, this black dude came up, and he saw me doing it, right? And when he approached me, immediately like I started kind of like I flinched a little bit. And he's like, no, like I'm cool, man, I'm cool, right? And like I had a conversation with him, and basically he just asked for $10. He gave me his story, and just like wanted to hop on the bus or something. But like when he started approaching me, in my mind immediately I went back to like the most prior experience that I had of like, yo, this motherfucker's gonna take my shit again, right? And I don't want to get my shit taken again. So I was just ready to like run, you know? So as like a police officer, and it goes right back to the alley example, we're trying to keep ourselves safe. Like a police officer's trying to keep himself safe. Or if you're walking down an alley, you're trying to keep yourself safe. And when you see on TV black people always being perpetrated as like the villain, as the bad guy, right? You have a ton of like preconceived biases and notions in your head that they're gonna fuck you up, and you don't want to die. You know what I'm saying? And then it's worse because now you're seeing riots and you're seeing looting happening, right? But there's also a ton of peaceful protests that are going on also. Right? But you're only seeing the rioting and looting. Why? Once again, America wants profit centers and they want clickbait. And what am I going to clickbait on? The most like outlandish, astronomical shit. Right? But that's not helping the problem. Right? And then it goes right back to all I know is the fucking 13-year-old white kids promoting the like Lil Pump and the Little Sky. And like have you seen the Instagram video of Lil Pump literally pissing on like $200,000? Literally. On Instagram, bro. On Instagram. There's a video of Lil Pump like throw 200 bands on the fucking ground in like Europe, and he just pisses on it. Bro, he pisses on it, and then he tells his manager to pick it up, and his manager says no, so he fires his manager, bro. Right? And now you're seeing people like when I saw this, I was like, what?
It's gonna self-destruct.
Yeah, but like that's not the point. He's representative of a culture.
It's not. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, I see where you're coming from too, and but there are a few thoughts that I think can help, like, I guess, as far as like the nuances of it. First of all, at the broad level, if people can acknowledge that these implicit biases exist, then it shouldn't be that far of a reach to then accept that because of that, when there are people who have positions of authority, those same biases are going to show up, and it can rear its head in extremely ugly ways.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you don't understand. I'm saying people don't understand that.
100%.
Mostly white America doesn't understand. For some reason, they're not able to make that connection between, well, if I was walking down the street and I saw a big black guy, I would clutch my bag. So, if they think that, then they should be able to understand how a cop is going to be biased. That's just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you give, that's without acknowledging the fact that they don't ever get prosecuted. You know what I mean? So there's like a level of arrogance on some level. Arrogance is kind of a bad word, but there's a level of, like bravado. Like, nobody can stop me. Whatever I do, I'll get away with. So there's people who are going to think like that as well. The second thing is that it's interesting because you got robbed in the South Side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know about the South Side of Chicago, or really Chicago in general, it is one of the most highly segregated cities in America.
Yeah, which I didn't at the time.
Right. Well, yeah, right. But statistically speaking, on that side of town, you're more likely to run into a black person than a white person. So, I guess from that, I'm saying it's obviously more, you're not going to get robbed by a white guy in a black neighborhood.
No.
But, regardless of that, there's also like, a poverty element to it that, there's poverty in the black communities around here, even around the University of Chicago, which is why so many people get robbed, because they know there are rich kids going to school there
Yep.
and they're starving. And, I even read something online that people people targeted kids wearing Canada Goose jackets to rob them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard that before.
I mean, that makes sense.
So it's literally like, you have this like this juxtaposition of like, this school with an $8 billion endowment, $9 billion endowment, however big it is now.
And then next door motherfuckers can't eat, bro. Next door motherfuckers can't eat, and they're just like, yo, you guys got $8 billion. Just
you got billionaires.
Yeah, just toss us a bone.
Billionaires, literally right there with a $500 jacket on. I mean, not a $1,000 jacket on. They can replace tomorrow. A $1,500 Goyard purse. You know what I'm saying? A $700 iPhone. $1,500 MacBook. They're walking down the street. They can. It's like. You know what I mean? Like it's tough when people are starving. You're seeing that now. It's not just poor people or people who were poor before, COVID-19, that are out there wilding. You know what I'm saying? It's everybody who, people who don't have jobs. Like, that's why looting is so rampant. If you ask me, like, people are broke.
Yeah.
So when people are broke, they're taking your shit. It's like Meek Mill said. He said, scared money don't make no money. If I ever go broke, I'm going to take your money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, people are like that. It's like, if I can't eat, my kids are eating somehow. So if I can't put food on the table, I'm taking it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree,
There's
man.
so much psychologically that goes into it. That's like, and I mean, people, I just think that nowadays is a very interesting lens with which, especially to view like, experiences of people. You know what I mean?
I like how you brought up the Meek example, bro, because I've been listening to a ton of Joey Badass and a ton of actually Tupac, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Tupac was the best example.
A lot of the stuff he said is so relevant.
Yeah, relevant now, right? Because the riots were going down right when he was coming up. So he talked about it right then. So and Changes came on the radio. Like, I was in the car and like Changes came on, right? And he literally says, I never committed a crime I didn't have to. Right? I never committed a crime I didn't have to commit. Okay?
Yeah.
So then you think about it like, okay, this is a black man who is in an impoverished community, right? So like the best way to put it is like, imagine that there's only like a loaf of bread, like one loaf of bread that gets dropped in between 100 people. Okay?
Yep.
And that
which is essentially how it works.
Yeah. And you need one fucking slice to feed you and like your 4 family members, right? And then you guys are all sitting there and you have to run and grab this one loaf of bread, right? If you see somebody else with this loaf of bread, you're going to be like, fuck, man, like, I really don't want to have to do it, but I'm going to take this fucking dude's loaf of bread, Yep. And then it gets worse. Imagine if you saw a dude with like 8 loaves of bread, right? Literally on the other side of the street with 8 loaves of bread, and you just came from somewhere where there was like one loaf of bread that ran out by the time you got there. You're going to be like, oh, you know what, bro? Like, that dude's not understanding how I'm feeling. Like, he can sacrifice one loaf of bread when he's got 8 in his pocket. He's got 8 in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need it that fucking much. So I think there's an element of greed that's going on, and the greed is coming from lack of perspective, right? Where I think a lot of people who are at the top don't acknowledge their blessings because they've never had to face it.
The possibility of not eating tomorrow doesn't even register.
Dude, and for me, like that had. When I grew up in Orange County too, like I would say that I don't want to say like I grew up black conservative because I definitely had experiences of being the outcast pretty much my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of what let me explain it like this. So my dad grew up.
You probably have some politically conservative views.
Yes.
You grew up around politically conservative. You were exposed to politically conservative views.
Yes.
A lot of a lot of the black community, at large, like believe in conservative things. It's just we're not conservatives because we, I'm not a political scientist, so I don't really understand all the dynamics at play. But it begins. I think a lot of it has to do, Lyndon B. Johnson, and signing the civil rights bill.
Yeah, the Welfare Act.
What?
The Welfare Act too.
Yeah. Like stuff like that. Like their platforms have done more to, at least address the concerns. Now they've also done a lot of shit that's messed us up, and they need to be held accountable for a lot of things as well.
Some of it
So
by
I don't wanna
accident.
act like
Some of
they're,
it
like,
was by
some
accident
heroes,
though.
but
Like they were trying to, like, some of it was by accident. Like politicians were trying to help, and then like they realized they fucked up, and then it was kind of like,
Yeah.
oh man, it's a little too late to change it now. Like we're gonna have to like let go of this entire generation to like change this shit.
gotta hold them. You still gotta hold them to task, though.
Yeah, that's true. No, I'm not saying that at all.
No, yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
But like for me, like I grew up with like conservative views just because of like kind of like the place that I was in, right? Where education was something that was super important for me because my dad. So when my dad was a kid, he went to like an all black school, and they actually were like, dude, he's dominating, and he's testing better than the second grade kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the first grade, he actually skipped a grade and went to the third grade. Okay, so he turned 17 like 2 months before graduation. So he was basically 16 when he graduated, right? And he's kind of pissed about it, to be honest, because he was like a track star. Imagine if he got one more year in high school.
Oh, facts.
He'd have balled, right?
Wildin'.
Because he still got a scholarship and he was still like going to state and stuff. But so that's what he was mad about. But he was thinking about it to the extent of like, man, the way I got out was education, and I got out through education because I valued education because my mom valued education. And then he's on top of that, like I had like a father like around, right? So when I grew up, not ever seeing the situation that he came from, and my mom came from the same place too, so my mom was like in that shit too, right? So they had both saw it, but I had never really been exposed to it except for like going to grandma's house. And then when I went to grandma's house, it was like the fucking sitcoms that I saw on TV, like Family Matters and like Fresh Prince. Like that's kind of how it felt like when I went to grandma's house, right? I didn't see like the shit. So when I was at home, like I grew up in like a new upcoming like wider area, very conservative and stuff. Like we pushed values that the black community didn't push, right? With the exception of athleticism, right? Because that's something that we had, right? We pushed like education a lot. And I don't think education is something that's pushed in the black community as much as it should be, right? And then the way I've been challenging this is like, okay, name me a black person who's idolizing the black community, who's not an entertainer or who doesn't play a sport, right? And I know it's going to be different for you. You're going to say John Ariel, but like give me like another example, or like Barry O, but give me like another example.
John Rogers, yeah. There are a few. There are a lot. I have a lot of thoughts on some things you said. First of all, I would say, okay. So as far as naming the influential leaders, Reginald Lewis, he died. He was the first black man in private equity, I believe, or like I think the first one to raise $1 billion private equity fund. Now you got Robert F. Smith. He runs Vista Equity Partners. You got Frank Baker. He runs Cirrus Capital. You've got Jim Reynolds.
But the question
Reynolds,
is like, would the average black person know this, or do you only know this?
No, they wouldn't. I mean, you would have to go to like CNN or one of the news shows, like Angela Rye. I think does a good job. But I mean, those are entertainers. You know what I mean? So
that's my point though, right? Like they should be put on a platform like, yo, man,
Neil
like
deGrasse Tyson, I guess.
Yeah, like you like these guys are the models. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys should be the models. It shouldn't just be about like J. Cole. It shouldn't just be about like LeBron James, right? Like obviously,
but that's the thing. So those you could argue are meritocratic industries. Like the best is the best athlete's the best athlete. The best music is the best music. So that's what's gonna. Whereas you get into these like finance. Is there any reason why there are no black? There, like all the biggest like private equity funds and like all that stuff. Like, is there a reason there's no black leadership or very little black leadership? Is there a reason why all these universities with these $1 billion endowments aren't spending their money with black money managers or stuff like that? People don't use black like accounting firms and advertising firms, and you could say, well, we want to use the big ones because they've got the established record, but it's like how are black owned businesses
supposed to come up?
To get there?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and on top of that,
and then so the other thing I would say is there are a lot of psychological barriers to black folks that black folks suffer from when it comes to the capitalist system. I do believe in capitalism, but I also at the end of the day I support the fact that black folks are skeptical of it because I think that the way it's been kind of used to justify a lot of things. It's been used in a very racist way, especially in America. But there are historical examples of reasons why we should not be trusting of institutions. And before I get to that, I just want to say the reason I'm bringing this up is because when you think about like how you get good schooling and good education and stuff like that, it comes from the tax base of the area and stuff like that. So if you want a good school, you're going to have to pay more in taxes. Black folks don't got it right now. Like we're, you know what I'm saying? We're still economically way behind where white America is.
Yeah,
and the other thing,
the system rewards winners. The system rewards winners for sure.
Right, but also it rewards winners. It rewards people who are. It rewards you when you're born in an advantageous position.
And nobody chooses where they're born.
You what?
And nobody chooses where they're born.
Exactly. And so you think about like, I encourage anybody who's listening to this, I don't know how you're going to do this, but like, Google Greenwood. I think it's the Greenwood district. It might be Greenwood County. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Believe in the 1800s, it was called Black Wall Street.
Yeah. I just watched the videos on that, bro.
Yep.
Tell the people about it.
Black Wall Street was a situation where, after the Civil War and all that stuff, black folks started to try and strike out on their own. And we built a community where we were spending money in our own community. We didn't really need white communities for anything. We just wanted to be left alone. And then after a while, the Klan came in and burned it to the ground and killed people. And then on top of that, there's a bank. I forgot the name of the bank. The first bank for freedmen, which are freed slaves, is after the Civil War. They established a bank for people to save money so that they can start to build wealth. And people were doing that. But the man who was appointed to lead the bank, essentially, I don't know whether it was through a whole bunch of risky investments or whether he just embezzled it all, the bank collapsed. So those are two examples of deliberate economic sabotage that don't go away. And then you think about like all the other, the fact that, even when the stock market's doing fine right now, and you look around and people are still out of work, like there's, those are two shining examples. I mean, I can't really think of more off the top of my head right now, but I can come back to you if you need me to with more of examples where people are just being, targeted, and it's the black community that's being targeted. Every time it starts to build some type of economic momentum, it's being stopped. And so now you have people like Tyler Perry, thank God for him.
Oh, awesome,
who,
bro.
He made all of his money in the black community, making, like, first it was plays, then it was movies. Now he's got his own studio where they're shooting all types of Hollywood shows, all types of Hollywood movies there. It's in Atlanta, I believe. And he's just one example. Killer Mike is a great example of, doing things in the black community, doing things positive for the black community. I'm going to name a lot of people from Atlanta. It doesn't just have to be Atlanta. My boss, like you mentioned, John Rogers, he's been, he doesn't get the credit he deserves for, the things he's done, to get the ball moving. And like, I mean, he chartered a school where, he teaches financial literacy.
Bro, he started the Big Shoulders Fund.
In Chicago that teaches kids, kids who are interested in finance, like to get black kids who, might not have been thinking about finance, exposure to it while they're in school, getting a great education so that they can make use of those opportunities that are presented to them to eventually, generate wealth. And so there's a lot of like, there are a lot of levels to the ways that we're digging ourselves out of this, but the problem is, and the persistent fear and like, almost paranoia, which is 100% warranted, is that, we have seen when we start to dig ourselves out of a hole that somebody sets us back. You know what I'm saying? There's a historical precedent for that. And so there are a lot of things that kind of go into the economic situation that we're in. And, like a lot of it has to do with psychological trauma and witnessing just blatant miscarriages of justice. I mean, there aren't really words to describe just how insidious it is. Like the burning of Black Wall Street, how insidious of that. You know what I'm saying? And like to expect the community to just forget that shit. I mean, I haven't even brought up slavery, okay? Like, we're the richest country in the world, or one of them. You know what I'm saying? China might pass us by now. Before COVID-19, the GDP was like what, $21 trillion. This got started off of our backs, and we have yet to see a dime. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot that goes into this shit, man. And so I mean, I guess I would just caution people when they're going to blame when they're going to chalk up somebody's position to what the community emphasizes. You know what I mean? And now, when it gets to like Lil Pump and stuff like that, I'm not really addressing that. I'm addressing more like the fact that when you think about black people's role models being athletes and entertainers, it's because that's the one meritocratic place where you cannot. And people have done this. Elvis ripped off. What was that lady's name? Damn, I forgot her name right now. She was called like the mother of rock and roll, the queen of rock and roll. She was a black woman. Elvis is known to have ripped off black artists. Rock and roll was a black art form. Jazz is a black art form. Blues, hip hop, all of these things are black art forms, and it's undeniable because they have become the mainstream. They always become the mainstream thing. King of Pop, Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Prince, one of the most talented artists of all time. Like, you have to give it up when somebody's got an undeniable talent. But when it becomes more discretionary, when you can pick and choose who you let in the door, that's when you start to see people being underrepresented. And so when people get back to, athletes and entertainers is what the black community values, it's not what we value. Those are the people that are being allowed to make it. Those are the people that have figured out a way to make it.
Well, I think it's two things, bro. Let me challenge you a little bit here. So I think it's two things. It's one, I think finance is a meritocratic industry, right? So that could be one where you could argue against it. But then
I don't know about that. I agree with you on some level, but
like if you can play the market and you're nice at it and you understand how it works and you understand how you can trade and stuff, like you can.
Sid, people have to give you capital.
Yeah, but
white companies and these universities do not. I'm telling you, this is a fact. They do not give black companies capital. My boss brings this up all the time. Princeton, I think, is 14% black, their student body, and they have one black manager in their entire endowment.
Well, that number realistically is probably lower because they're including people from Nigeria who are like princes and like South Africa and stuff too. So like actual black Americans is probably like 7%.
But even so, why isn't? I mean, regardless of. Well, fine. Use an African money manager. You know what I'm saying? Use somebody from Nigeria. Why is there no color? Why is it all white people managing this money? Why?
I don't know. Maybe like, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into it, right? But like maybe the supply is lower, you know?
But if you,
maybe the supply is lower. Like, why are there only like a few white dudes in the NBA and the NFL? Right, that's the way I think about it. Is like, okay, so let's assume that I grew up in the hood, right?
But look who the coaches are. Look who the owners are. Look who the general managers,
that's true.
The presidents
that's
are.
fucking very true. Like, I agree with that. There should be like Mike Tomlin has been a fucking beast, right? Why haven't more black coaches got more opportunities, right? But I think for me the way I look at it is like, okay, especially because all the black players like theoretically should be the best coaches because it's like, yo, I played for years. I have experience in the field. I know exactly how to do it. So I agree with you there. That one's wrong. That one feels like the opportunities don't feel like they're given as much there for sure. But like the way I think about it is, okay, so if I'm born in the hood, right? And I go to school and I only see like 20% of people graduate, but then I see like 30 to 40% of people there like go to D1 college and play hoops. Right, or make it because they're like an entertainer, right? If the majority of people who I see are like entertainers or ball players, right? I'm gonna choose the field where I have the best chance. So I'm gonna double down on that. Like school probably not, bro. School's not for me. I'm not seeing that.
What I'm saying is, the schools are the way they are because of the tax base in that locality, and people don't have money because they've been economically disenfranchised for generation after generation. That's my point.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's when you get this emphasis on what's the way to make it? What's the way to get rich? I came from a middle class family, and I some reason thought that I needed to go to the NFL or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's ridiculous, but that's what it. You know what I mean? It's like that's how that's what we see. And then you get somebody like Obama, no telling what this next generation is going to be capable of, because they've seen some shit and that they're used to, and now they're not. I mean, they're going to grow up with their own struggles, but they're not going to grow up thinking that a black person can't be president, and that's something,
That's awesome. Yeah.
not everybody could say. Not everybody that's living right now can say that. My
That's
parents
literally
were crying because they never saw this happening, not in their lifetimes.
That's literally the conversation I have with my pops, bro. Where like my mom was like, "Well, Obama kind of just sat in office too," and I was like, "Yeah, but here's the thing with Obama is like, one, the fact that he was just in office was fucking groundbreaking, because like now my kids can grow up, like if I have kids, they can grow up and be like, oh fuck, man, like I can be president. That's a mixed man in the office. Like that could be me." You know what I'm saying? So just that fact alone is gonna fucking trigger something in a bunch of kids. And also at the same time, like imagine you're at school, like the ASB president probably gets like bashed on and like bullied by like the athletes and stuff, right? But after seeing Barry O, that dude's probably getting invited to parties. That dude's like, yo, ASB president? Yeah, he's like, Barry O, fucking come on, hit this blunt, you know?
Yeah.
And then the second piece is that what were we talking about? We're talking about president. And then the second piece with like Barry O getting into office is like, the thing about Barry O is there was nothing he could do, because the world was secretly waiting for that man to fuck up. The world was
100%.
secretly hoping that he fucked up so that they could be like, yo, we'll never see another black president in office again. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And he did.
The man's only vice was a cigarette every now and then.
Yeah, and he did
He's
eight years. 8 years, balled out, and then they still fucking gave us Trump, bro. They're still like,
you
and
got
I mean,
guy. The fact that, I mean, if you want to get into the hypocrisy of that, Obama, there were scandals. The biggest scandals during the Obama administration were a tan suit, and so, and people on the left have issues with him that I think are valid in terms of like the drone strikes and the immigration stuff, but and the fact that he probably could have. I mean, I think he did a lot for the black community. People think he could have done more. I'm not going to argue with you there, although I will say, if you look at the way the Senate treated him, the fact that Mitch McConnell didn't allow him to appoint Mitch McConnell literally let a Supreme Court seat sit open for a year rather than let Obama pick. He wanted to get to the next election, and now he got 2 Supreme Court justices in addition to hundreds of federal judges. Whatever. That's besides the point. In terms of Barack, the criticism of him, from a quote-unquote scandalous perspective, what do they call him, like a communist or something like that? Do people understand that Trump has like 5 kids by like 2 baby mamas? Like, he was cheating on his pregnant wife with a playmate. You know what I'm saying? Like, this stuff is nuts. Like, the double standard where it's like Obama wears a tan suit, and everybody loses their mind. Obama takes vacations or goes golfing. People hold him to task when Trump is golfing all the time. He golfs at his own hotel. He charges Secret Service, who's protecting his life, to stay at his hotel. And on top of that, he hasn't divested any of his businesses. So,
bro, let's talk about the fact that
I don't want to go down that road because I can go on forever. But I'm just gonna say that I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly. The double standard is crazy. Obama couldn't slip up once. He had a cigarette every now and then, and he wore a tan suit. And this guy is spray tanning, and oh my God.
Not only that, bro. Look at Barry O's resume, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like,
impeccable.
Look what he had to have in order just to get a fucking chance, to get a shot, right?
Listen to them speak. Listen to both of them speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Dude, did you see fucking Trump come out and just be like, George Floyd is looking down on America's jobs report and approves?
It's disgusting.
I was like, oh wow.
There's nothing he won't do. Like, there's no level he won't stoop to. It's just a matter of, does he think this will help me or hurt me? As long as something is going to help him, it doesn't matter what the fuck he's doing. You know what I'm saying? That whole bizarre photo op in front of the church after he cleared out all those peaceful protesters with fucking tear gas. Like,
so here's the question, man. And this is, like, first off, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for like just expressing your opinion and your thoughts, man. Because I think that's the most important piece with all this going on is I think people are confused and we don't know what we're supposed to be feeling and how we want kind of the world to look. And the best part about it is like having an open dialogue to where it's very like it's from a position of like, these are the views, opinions, and thoughts that I have, right? These are why I have these opinion, views, and thoughts, right? But I'm not getting the full picture. I'm only seeing a piece of the picture, right? And then when you have a conversation who has like a different side, right? You hear their thoughts and you're like, oh man, that directly conflicts with my opinions, my thoughts, and my
100%.
biases that I have. And just by hearing that side, now you have to confront that side and try to come more closer to the truth, right? So being able to have these open conversations, bro, and allowing people just to look into our lives, like even secretly, like when I post it, right, they're gonna look into our lives and the conversation that we had and get a better understanding, because maybe there's like a white kid right now who's following me who like doesn't want to ask the questions that we're bringing up, or doesn't want to state the opinions that he has because of fear of being called like a racist, you know. But sometimes the opinions and thoughts that he has, right, are important and merited, and he needs to know that, like, yes, they're valid, but you also need to understand that the other side is also very like merit-based and valid as well, and you got to look at both sides and feel both sides and have that perspective. So the final question that I kind of want to hit you with, man, and that was like a long spiel, I apologize, is now that the dialogue has been open, and now that the conversations have been happening, right? How can we start to look into the future and understand what we want the world to look like in 10, 20 years for the generation that we're going to leave behind? Because like I said in the beginning of this chat, man, we're the next guys up. We're the leaders. We're the ones who are going to start to change the world, right? And it's our time. So what kind of world do we want to see in 10 years? And then what are the steps that we can take to actively go about that? Because what I'm noticing right now is every single time somebody like pipes up and gets upset, right, we just fucking donate money and throw money at it, right? But without realizing that it's not going to change the problem, because the wealth is going to shift again over time if we don't address the actual root causes, right? Like the system is already set in place, and the more money you pump into the system, the more the system is just going to work in the way that it's going to work. So what tangible changes can we make, and what kind of world do we want to see in 10 years? Sorry to put you on the spot like that too.
Well, I've heard a lot of interesting things in terms of like what the government can do as far as the different ways that accountability can be improved. Whether it's not having the local prosecutor be the one that has to prosecute cops, or I don't know exactly how the political, or how the policy like making process behind that would look, but I'm interested in that kind of thing. As far as normal people, man, again, I'm bringing up Charlemagne again, but he said something interesting, which is don't get in the way. Like when people are, like prime example, by all accounts, I mean, I'm not sure, but as far as I understand it, the Amy Cooper from Central Park is like a liberal or whatever. Like apparently she, you know what I mean? Like she living in New York City, that, that kind of at least gives you some hint. So people, I guess what I'm trying to say is people think that, paying lip service or posting a black square on Instagram is enough. But I think it really comes down to trying to understand just, sometimes you don't have to have the right thing to say, but you do need to listen. I think right now is about listening to the black community and listening to our leaders, not people like me. I'm just, like I'm learning just like everybody else, but listening to the leaders that, have plans, that have studied this stuff and are saying that these are some effective ways that we can make changes. Other changes I've heard as far as the police are concerned. I mean, I hate to be like castigating the police, because at the end of the day, I understand that they're good cops, and I understand that most people don't join the police force just to push people around. People do it, and then, other people bring their implicit biases onto the force with them, and but I think cops need to understand that there needs to be a systemic change to the way their job is performed, because at the end of the day, they're professionals. They're getting paid to do this job, and, so we need to act like they're getting paid to do this job. Just because I'm scared of a black person walking down the sidewalk, walking on the sidewalk in the middle of the night, not me personally, but I'm saying for any American out there who's afraid of a big black person walking down the street or a big white person walking down the street, we're not getting paid to make that distinction, and they are. And so I think that they should be held to a higher standard. That's first. So, it comes to, like, not allowing people to do chokeholds and things of that nature. I think that's all on the table. I also think that there needs to be a concerted effort to bring Black communities, especially in cities, along economically. I don't know what that would look like, but there needs to be an influx of resources to these communities. I was, I'm not going to say, whatever. So basically, I was listening to this meeting, from like some local officials for Cook County, and they were basically saying, like, there's a huge divide between the access that people have to internet. So people think about that in like a rural versus urban kind of paradigm. But even within Cook County, the Black communities are significantly have significantly reduced access to internet. So kids, you think about kids going home and having to do homework off like a phone, like an iPhone, using data. And you know what I mean? Like stuff like, or having to go to McDonald's to get an assignment done or get an assignment submitted. So there are things that, there are tangible things that need to then be done in order to help bring these communities along, because if it's not done, then it's not going to get done, because where the capital is right now, it's not going to leave those people's hands until it becomes socially untenable not to care about not restoring, but essentially giving the Black community kind of what they're due. And I mean, I'm Black, so I'm biased here, but at the end of the day, we built this motherfucker. So in terms of what we're worth, there's a lot of ways you can answer that question, but I just think as long as we're making steps to bring people along and trying to make sure that, this trickle-down economic stuff where you cut taxes for corporations, they're just going to buy back stock. They're not going to raise wages. So, people need to have access to, educational resources so that they have more breadth of opportunities as far as jobs are concerned. And, just in sorry, I'm rambling here, but things that folks could do on a day-to-day basis to make the world easier for Black folks is that when you're in a room and it's awkward for you because it's all white people, it could be your friends, it could be your job, and you hear someone say something that is racist, you need to check them, even if there's no Black people in the room. It needs to become socially unacceptable to say racist shit and to do racist shit. You need to, if you really want to go after it, challenge your company on why there aren't more Black people in positions of power. Challenge your company on why there aren't more, people of color in positions of power, more women in positions of power. You can do that with any number of issues. I'm focusing on the Black community because, that's the topic at hand. Why aren't there more Black people on the board of directors? Why aren't there more Black people on the board of trustees for our university? Why aren't there more people on, the investment committee or the nominating committee for these boards? Why aren't there, more Black politicians? Why aren't there more Black police officers? Like, why aren't there more Black people in these positions that can actually affect change? Because, aside from destroying the institutions, which is what a lot of people are advocating, you need to change the composition of them so that when things arise, people are going to be more sensitive to how it's going to affect different communities. You know what I'm saying? There needs to be representation so that, if you have a Black person on the board of, I don't know, what's a company that fucked up recently with the way that, Home Depot. If you had Black people on the board of Home Depot, or if you had a Black CEO running Home Depot, or if you had a Black CFO running Home Depot, they wouldn't be fucking up in public. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't be doing things that are out of touch with reality, because at the end of the day, the way these boardrooms look and the way these management teams look is not the way the country looks, and it's not the way the country is going to look moving forward. Same thing with the cabinet in the White House, although that's got, some political, there are political dynamics at play there. If you don't want to talk about that stuff, fine, but there needs to be more representation of the people that are being oppressed in these situations so that the oppression does not continue by these institutions.
I agree,
you see what
bro.
I'm saying?
And one thing that I kind of want to piggyback on and end with is not only do Black people need to have a seat at the table, right? but their voice needs to be heard at the table.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the times with like
so the black folks in those rooms, sorry to cut you off, I just want to say this one quick thing. The black folks that are already in those rooms, y'all need to start pounding the table too.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean that includes me. You know, I'm getting better at this stuff every day. I'm not saying like I'm sitting on this perch on the top of a hill and I can just talk down on people. I'm working on this stuff too. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this is just the way I'm seeing it. I'm just calling it like I see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
And black people that are in those rooms, they need to be more vocal. We all need to be more vocal. The black folks who have, you know, somehow or another defy the odds. You know what I'm saying? Like people need to be more vocal.
Yeah, because I think 100% like is with all these like, okay, so we need more people of color. Let's just give this guy's black. Let's just put him at the table and we just won't listen to his opinion. You know what I'm saying? I think that person at the table, like once he's in the room, his voice and his opinion needs to be heard too, right? Because it's only gonna with more perspectives, it's only gonna improve the company's brand and the company's recognition, right? Like why do you think Nike scooped up Kaepernick on their marketing campaign? Those motherfuckers look really right now. They look like they're doing the right thing, and they did it years before shit got bad. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's important. There's probably a black dude in the room like, hey man, we should probably scoop that guy up. You know? Where like if there was a team of white guys in the room, they might have not like had the same opinion, right?
Absolutely.
And then the last thing I'll say is like a lot of people, once again, we can bring it back to historical evidence. We're trying to base someone's behavior off of historical evidence, right? And one thing that I think about a lot and that I keep in the back of my mind, just as somebody who wants to be a leader and who wants to grow his own companies, his own business, and be like an entrepreneur, one thing that I've been really trying to focus on is treating people not as they are, but as who they could be. Right? Don't treat people. Yeah. Don't treat people as what they've accomplished up to this point. Treat them as if they can accomplish more and that they can be more. Right? And then I think that the majority of the time they will rise to your expectations of them. You know what I'm saying? They will become more for you because you're like, hey man, like I expect you to become this. You know what I'm saying? And I expect you to become this not for you, but for all the other people who are coming after you, who need an example to look up to, who need a model to look up to. It's not about you. It's about stepping up and becoming something better so that, just like Barry O, it's about becoming president so that the young kid right now who's at school who doesn't think that he can become president is like, oh shit, but Barry O did it. Maybe I can do it too.
100%.
All right, man. So that's all I got. I appreciate you coming on and chatting and speaking your truth, bro. And then,
thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed this. It was fun talking about it, talking things through.
Bro, wait till you see like the clip and dude, you were super passionate about it, bro. It's gonna connect with a lot of people, man. You should be very proud.
Wow, thanks, man. I appreciate that. You know, I never, you know, I mean, I definitely got, you know, you could definitely hear me getting, you know, passionate. It's interesting that it came through, though. I guess, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's. I mean, I hope it doesn't get misconstrued or whatever. I hope I'm not, you know, coming off as some asshole.
No, here's the thing, bro. Is like it is gonna get misconstrued to some people, but at the same time, somebody needs to hear it, right? Just having the other perspective in your head is important. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people think, like you said something that actually like low key kind of bothered me. You said, let's leave it to the leaders, right? But why can't you be the leader? You know what I'm saying? Like
100%. 100%.
What are you like 23, 24 now?
If I said that, I was mistaken. You're right.
Yeah, like bro, you're an expert in being black. You've lived it your whole fucking life. You can tell people how you're feeling, right? Because that's all it is like I have like you give like okay, so like when you go to like you're like okay, I need a marketer, right? And you look at somebody's resume, it says 20 years of marketing experience. You're gonna be like, this guy knows some shit in marketing, right?
Yep.
When I come to you, I'm like okay, like I need like a black expert, right? Oh, 23, 24 years of being black. Okay, this guy's a fucking expert. You know what I'm saying? Like you've lived it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like you have experience, you walk in the world like it. Like don't ever think that you're not the leader. Like we're next up, bro. It's our time and we can change the world in the view and the way that we want to change the world, right? But it takes community, it takes open dialogue, and it takes action. It takes actually showing up and fucking doing what you need to do, bro. So
I'm
always
been good at that shit, man. This is why you were doing this stuff before the games every time, because like I'm ready to fucking run through a wall right now.
Yes, let's go. What's that fucking quote? If you don't speak up, they will kill you for it, and then say that you love them. Right? That's the way I'm looking at this. Is like, man, you spoke up, right? And like you got to put your stamp on it. And like, it's not gonna change. Like we disagreed on some things, we agreed on a lot of things. It's not gonna change my opinion or perspective of you. You know what I'm saying? It's actually gonna challenge me, and it's gonna cause me to grow and be better, and do things right. Like think about somebody like in the friend group who is like real low key, like super hard swinging right, but now they've heard your side and they heard your perspective, and they're like, fuck, man, I love Chappie. I had no idea he was feeling like that. I had no idea he was feeling like that.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If it's more useful that way, then I support that. Yeah, 100%. Let's do it.
All right, cool. Thank you, bro. And then
Yes, sir.
then I'll chop it up, and like obviously like the goal is to push a message across, and I'm not trying to censor stuff like CNN and like CNBC. I'm not like a Republican, or I'm not like a Democrat. Like I'm a person.
Right. I don't think I am either. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm a registered Democrat, but I don't know how long that's gonna last.
Yeah, like the way I put it is like economically I swing kind of right, but at the same time like the money needs to get like socially I swing left.
Socially I'm a liberal. Fiscally I'm a conservative.
Yeah, because it's like all right, there's a compromise here.
Or I don't want to say conservative, but I'm more conservative than I am socially. You know?
Yeah, because you don't want the government having your money, because it's like, bro, like y'all keep fucking up.
Yeah, I know you guys are nuts. Like the concept of running for office, like wanting, like that's what you built your entire life on. Like,
yeah,
I know you're crazy. I don't want you. You know what I mean? I don't want you in my business. But at the same time, you do need government to play a large role if black people are going to get what they deserve.
Well, dude, I like
history.
I like the J. Cole song where he's like, why can't we have he's like, why does the government get half my fucking bread, right? And why can't I just choose on an app where my money's going to? He's like, how come that
Facts,
the communities that I grew up in have teachers that don't fucking look like them, right? Like, why aren't they getting funded?
Who says they should say where the tax money goes?
That's what I'm saying, right? Because you're
right.
Especially at a bigger scale, like you talked about this, bro. Like the board members in the cabinet, they don't fucking look like us.
Nope.
Right? So why do they get to choose where the money's going? You know what I'm saying? Like it should be the people who have the money and who made the money. They should be able to choose like with an app. You know, like okay, I'm gonna send the money here.
Also, yo, interesting. This is just an interesting like anecdote. Since we're shooting the shit a little,
Yep.
Tupac. We were talking about Tupac, and like, there's this video going around of him, and he's talking about like, he said, if I'm hungry and I see you in a hotel room with food, and you're just throwing food around, all this, having a good time, and I come and knock on the door, and I'm singing for food. I'm just trying to sing my way in. He's like, at first it's gonna be a nice song, like, we are hungry, please let us in. We are hungry, please let us in. Then after a couple days, it's like, we're hungry, we need some food. And then he says, like, then after a few weeks, it's like, he said, I'm knocking on the door, so blah, 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 whatever he's talking about. And then he said, after a year, it's like, I'm picking the lock, coming through the door, blasting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just thought that was such a good way to describe the way this shit is playing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you gotta...
He was unreal.
And you're... So that's something I think about, too, bro, is you see people who are exceptional beings, okay? So I'm 25 right now.